both of our pups on the bench at the moment. The one on the left here has received some treatment around the front area, the top of the deck as it's called, and we've also got our struts in place here too, and we've got a little bit of detail with the machine gun in place. We've also got some tyres on, so we're going to go through that whole process right now in this video and do the treatment on the Chin Chow B1777 1777 Sopwith PUP. So let's clear the decks and get going. So let's start with the fun bit first, the nice, easy and satisfying bit. Let's get our tyres onto our wheels. So hopefully you've followed my instructions and haven't glued these in place, although mine seem to be firmly there. So anyway, not too bad. There was obviously a little bit of glue from the making of the wheels, but if you have your little baggie to hand with all the bits in, there are 2 tyres there, and it's easier to pop them on from the back of the wheel, as the rear disc is slightly smaller than the front disc. So it's usually quite a nice fit and shouldn't need gluing, but you could put a little bit of either CA glue or certainly some of the foam to foam would quite happily grab that as well. I'm just going to do that like that. Oh, there's a little bit of glue on there. And, go. So, and onto the other one as well. Just keep the axle on this one. Pop that on, roll it over. Just make sure it's all sitting squarely in that channel that's provided. And then we can pop our axle through. Try that again. Go. And then put this on the other side. So, go. So that rolls nicely. Great stuff. And obviously it now looks like a proper wheel in place on the pup. Great stuff. Okay. Next step, we need to get the plastics and we need to start building those struts. Here we have our piece of carbon fibre that's in the pack with all the other bits. We've got the remnants of our plastics for the pup as well, and we've also got stickers too. So we'll be adding those to the other side of the struts. So let's get down and remove the 2 struts we need, which are P10 and P11. I'm just flipping the sheet over enables us to quite easily see where the cuts need to be made to free the parts from the sheet. Like so. Okay, we'll just put that to one side for now. And now we need to cut some carbon fibre to sit on each of the legs of the struts. These are known as the Cabane struts, by the way. And actually, before we do that, the way that these sit on the fuselage is like so. So the printed surface is on the inside, and we will get to sticker this on the outside. But that does leave these bits of rigging here exposed, and of course they are white on the reverse. So what we can do at this point is, using a something like a Sharpie or paint or whatever you fancy, we can actually just fill them in slightly so they're not so obvious on the build. It's obviously difficult to sticker these parts because obviously the stickers would have to be very, very slender. So just a quick coloration. I probably prefer to use grey, but I don't think I've got my grey one here, so I'll use black instead. There we go. So now we need to cut the carbon fibre for these parts, and the measurement is, I believe, 27 millimeters. So let's just check that. I've got a measuring tool here on my knife, and yeah, that indeed is 27. So let's just more accurately do that using my rule. 27, like 26, 27, there we go. And we're going to need 4 of these. So these are used to stiffen the struts. Obviously the struts themselves are functional, they support the top wing, and these ones support it in the sort of central area of the wing. So attaching these to the struts on the inside, just need to add some glue. So what I'm actually going to do is provide or put glue onto the strut itself, and in a wider area than I would necessarily put it just for the 1 mil of carbon fibre. The reason for this is it also provides a little bit of extra bonding for the stickers when we put them on, because obviously we want them to sit there permanently, and they've got a curve around this 0.4 millimeter depth. So what I'm going to do when I attach these pieces of carbon fibre is keep them fairly central to the strut itself, as you can see there, and also beware that on the struts, certainly the front portion of the strut, you've got a whole top and a whole bottom, and that's actually for the rigging, so we need to leave that clear so we can get our rigging tool through. So on with the next one. And there we go. So you can get a bit of a reference there about how that attaches. So we do exactly the same on the other side. And I'll come back to you once we've finished. So there we go. Both are done now, and we can cover the rear sides of them with our sticker material. So here we have S12, S13, S14 and S15. Now if I have followed my own rules, S12 and S13 should go on the starboard side. So let's just check whether that is the case. So that is our port side, that is our starboard side. So let's check starboard side. And gosh, follow my own rules. There we go. So S13 goes on the front and S12 goes on the rear. So let's just free up one of those. Go. And then we can lay this onto our strut. Obviously you want to keep it nice and central so we don't get any overlaps. That looks perfect. You'll notice there's a little cutout in the sticker as well, right at the top there, that circumvents the hole for the rigging. So just check the alignment. Looks pretty good. And then we can make sure that it sticks down really well by pressing it down. You can even use the back of the knife or some other tool to just press the sticker material down either side of the carbon fibre, like so. You can see that we've got it covered. So on to the next. So this is S13 going on. Now this has a cutout top and bottom. Yep, that looks good. Let's gently press down. Good. Make sure the sticker's well and truly stuck. There we go. So that's one side done. I'll crack on with the other side and come back and we can attach them to the fuselage. So now we have both of our cabane struts stickered up, and what we need to do now is just to make a few little bends in the material. Firstly, this top part here, which obviously adheres to one of the struts, we just need to bend slightly inwards, like so. So I've got this stickered side facing out here. So bend that in. You can see just a little bit like that, right at the top of the strut, where it straightens out to the bottom portion of the top part of this particular strut, like so. And then this lower portion here, if you bend that right at the bottom of the strut inwards, like so, that sort of angle. It doesn't have to be absolutely precise, but because we'll set the angle once we've got the top wing attached. So, there we go. So we'll do that on both. inwards, and then this lesser angle. So there we go. So these are actually going to attach to the upper deck here, like so. And there's a little, notice a little return on this part here, and this portion is supposed to slot into the foam part of the aircraft here. So if I just bring this up to show, so it's supposed to sit around about there with this longer face here. So we had a little bit of a technical glitch there. I'm sorry about that. The audio cut out for some reason. So just returning to where we were, this particular half moon should slot into the foam like so. And to do that, I just cut a very small slot into the foam where it sits against this elevation here, and just pop a little slot into the foam there, no more than about 3 or 4 millimeters in, and exactly the same on the other side as well, like so. And then that allows this part here just to sit comfortably in that location, like so. Now the other end here, we need to add a small little retaining part in P12, and there are 2 of these, obviously one for each side, but we'll remove both now. And you just need to create a little, so the shiny side I'm going to use as the sticky side. That's the bit I'm going to stick. So I'm just going to put a little bit of a bend in it, like so. And on this one as well, shiny side facing out, and then just put a little bend in, like so. Now when you pop the strut on in place where it's supposed to sit, you'll notice that that strut there comes fairly close to the sort of at the front of the cockpit there. And what we want to do is just pop our little retaining part into that area. It's probably easier if I use tweezers, get my fingers out of the way. Into that area just there, to allow, you can see it there, to allow that strut just to be retained in that position there. So I've basically wedged this down into the gap between this former here, bulkhead, and the skin on the side. If you find there's some glue in the way, just carefully run your knife between the two just to loosen it up a bit, so there is a gap there. And then what we'll do is just add a little bit of glue to the back side of this retaining part, just half of it for now, and then we can just slot that in place. and make sure the slot is level with the top of the side fuselage, and also the slot is just at the same level as the bulkhead just there, and we can do that on the other side too. Just make sure the gap is there that we need. Yep. And then just pop a little bit of glue on that and slot it in place. There we go. So what I'm going to do now is pop our struts into place, but I won't push this through that slot just yet, because I'm going to let them dry where they are in situ on the inside of the fuselage. If I try to push those through at the moment, I'll probably dislodge them. So I'm just going to put the front ones in place at the moment. We know where they go, and it's quite simply just adding a little bit of the gum stuff to the bottom of that half moon, like so. And we can just slide that into place like so. It's going to go through the right place. I was just checking that we got that retaining part in the right place, and yes, indeed, that'll go through the slot when it's time. So on to the other side. Add the glue. Okay, so it looks like our struts are now in place, apart from the last push. And what we can do now is turn our attention to the covering. So Z3 is what we require here. So let's just remove that. Go. Now the other thing that we do need is our scoring and beveling guide. So we can see Z3's there. Pop it upside down like so, and we're going to bevel these edges first. So very simple to do. I actually just hold it in my hand. It doesn't have to be a particularly shallow bevel. There we go. And the other thing you can do, if you've got one of these ball tools, is we can just press down the front of the cockpit there, just to reduce that white edge, like so. Okay, now to the scoring part. So it's very simply just some parallel lines all the way down. Using the back of the knife, obviously. Now, if you so wish, of course, you can put even more score lines in, and that'll create an even more rounded effect to the top deck. It really would help if I could find my Tamiya tape. I'll have to order some more. So I've got all the scoring done now. Move these off the table. And before we apply the part, I'm just going to make sure that each one of those scores is actually creased from the top, so that we get a nice curve going on. It just makes adding this part a lot easier to do as well. It's not trying to ping off all the time. Just going to roll this around just to make sure every crease is there. And then we are ready to apply that to the fuselage. Before we do, let's just pop these struts into place. You should just pop through the slot. Set nice and easily. Pulled it off one side. There we go. So that's in. Let's just pop that back on. Go. Other side too. Probably going to have the same problem. I think we're there. There we go. So now we're free to add that top part on. So how I'm going to do this is I'm going to glue one edge down first, like so, and then roll it round, attaching it as I go. So the first thing to do is just to apply some glue to the first edge that we're going to put down. I'm going to be relatively generous here with the bead. seeing as I'm going to transfer the glue over. So just carefully put that into place. And let the glue transfer, and I'm going to take it apart. And then I'm going to continue to add some glue to the tops of the formers. I'm just going to add a bead of glue to the opposite edge too. And also where the fuselage top parts come together. So the other thing I'm going to do is add another bead, slightly less generous bead, to the other side. So, and then just one more bead across the underside, right at the front of the part, like so. And then we're just going to pop this down, leave it to dry off somewhat, and then come back and apply it once it has. So a few minutes have gone by. We can start the process. So we're just going to stick one of the sides down. And obviously one of the main indicators here of position is you've got some cutouts here for the struts, but of course this back edge here should come up against the back edge of the top part of the fuselage here. So as long as you've got that in place, it should be good to go. So that's all stuck down. Just needs a little bit of manipulation to bring everything together. And then it should quite happily wrap its way over to the other side. And I'm going to stick the other side down now. So. Then the very useful ball tool comes into play just to burnish that connection. It's not going to get in everywhere because obviously it's a ball, but where we can't, we can start using other parts of our tools. So I'm using the back of my metal tweezers here, and any glue that comes off we can wipe away. Just make sure we get a really good solid seam. All that glue comes into contact. Just needs a little bit of gentle force to bring some of those seams together. A little bit of glue coming out there. Seams together. go. Just a little edge there. Press down. Go. You could spend an age fiddling around with this, just getting everything settled in. There we go. That'll do. So our next step is just to create the machine gun that sits atop of the deck here. So we'll go and grab the parts for that and put that together. For the machine guns, we need several parts, quite a lot of plastic, and the first part I'm going to cut out from here is P14 and P13. So those are the sort of the main parts of the weaponry. There we go. And there is also a 2mm part that we need, and that is D16, which is this little rectangular part here. Let's just put that out. Now this is literally a filler for the machine gun itself. Obviously on here you've got the part number D16, but you've also got a little slot here. I'm just going to run the knife through there just to make sure that that slot is open, and that is going to sit within the part here, which was P13. So now there's a number of scores on P13. If we take it to the rocket ship end, basically what we're going to do is create a three-sided box. So we'll fold the edges down like that and fold that like so, and obviously then that naturally comes down like that, and then we're going to fold the side walls down like so, and obviously this forms the breech of the machine gun, and then the round part at the tip there, that just folds down like so. And while we've done all that, we're going to insert our D16 part, and we want that slot that we've got there to coincide with the slot that's in the side of the plastic part there. So that means it has to be put in like so. So let's get the glue. Just coat the inside of our plastic here to receive it. Now these little flaps at the side of the pointed end here, let me bring that up a bit closer, and they are going to fold inside the outer parts of the plastic here. So we're just going to move them in somewhat. And I've already put glue on the inside of these parts here, so that should all fix together. So I'm going to drop this in with the slot in the right place, and I'm going to push the rear piece up like so. So that sits up against the back of our filler. and then that flap can go down. I've got a little bit of glue on that, and then make sure everything pushes into place like so, and then that circular flap there can flap down at the front. We can actually pop a little bit of glue on that, make sure it stays where it should, like so. So we'll let the glue dry on that, and then we'll push everything together, and so it should stay where it should. And on our P14 part, we're literally just going to fold this in half. We've got the score running down the middle there. I'm actually going to loosen that up somewhat. I don't want it pinging open. So if I could actually see the score there it is. So that should fold over quite easily on itself, and we'll just glue that together. Go. Now just transfer some glue over. There we go. Now while we're waiting for all of that to dry off, we can actually make the barrel jacket, which we require some of our plastic tube for. Now, how much do we need? Well, that's dictated by the size of the sticker, S16. So let's remove S16. Go. And we're going to wrap it around the top of our tube. I'm going to put that right at the top there. You can actually put it a little way down and trim off, but don't forget we're going to use more of this to make the rotary engine, I should say. So just wrap that around, and likewise the other side. There we go. So that's determined the length of the tube that we need. So we'll just slice it off there. There we go. So there is our jacket, our cooling jacket for the gun barrel. So pop that to one side, we can start making sure that this all comes together. And the one thing that we do need to do, whether there's a slot right at the front, that circular part there, there's a slot, and we will be pushing the rear tip of our front, or it's essentially the barrel, into that slot and then into the foam beyond. So what I'm going to do is just make sure that we have a gap in that foam, make sure that that slips into place without any problem. There we go, I think I've convinced it. And everything else should squash down nicely. I think we've got our slot in place there. Go. So it's all neatly packed together now. Let's close this, and then hopefully that will then slot in there. So we can actually add a little bit of glue just to the pointy bit, like so. And then pop that in, making sure that the actual barrel that's poking out there is on the lower side rather than the upper side of the machine gun. Obviously the exposed side here, that's the lower side. So just make sure that sits in there, and then the jacket should just slide over the top like so. And you can add a little more glue at the base there so that the jacket will stick in place. So there we go. So the other part that we can add to this whilst it's setting is there's a little piece that sits at the front there, and that is a plastic part too, and that is P15, which is that one there. So once again, this has a slot. I'm just going to make sure the slot's open. Cut this piece free, and then that slot should just slot over the barrel at the front there, which is obviously flat. It's a sort of a profile impression of the barrel, and then that should just sit right at the front of the jacket like so. And we pop a little glue there so that stays in place as well. Slightly overdone it on the glue. And just put that into place. Oh, it's fallen inside. Just a little bit too hard. Okay, there we go. Sitting neatly on the outside there. So we'll just set that aside. For the glue to dry, and whilst it's drying we can make up the other little details on the that adhere to the weaponry. So what have we got? Well, we've got this sort of the windshield and sort of a padded area at the front. This consists of P18, 19 and 20. We'll just remove those. So P18 is this rather sophisticated part here, and that well, certainly the lower portion of it should marry up to the lower portion of P19, like so. So if we stick those together, then you get coloration on both sides of the part, which is indeed what we're going to do. But before we stick them together, you've got these on P19, 18, you've got these parts here, and they've actually been scored so that you can fold them downwards like so. And then when we pop them onto 19, they should then project out the other side like so. So that's all you need to remember to do when doing that. Put a little bit of glue on there and pop it in place. Like so. And then our little P20 part just sits on top of all of that, covering the white area. Like so, there we go. Put that in place. There we go, we'll just let that all set. And then we can look at our parts P16 and P17. We are getting to the little fiddly bits, I know, but it's got to be done. We want that detail. So this is to do with the ammunition feed and belt. So the belt part, which is fairly simple, all we need to do is just make sure that it's curved. So we'll just put some pressure on it to bring it around, and it should sort of bend through around about 90 degrees, like so. Just over egg it a little. Go. And then this part here is a little more sophisticated. You've got these side pieces here, these little triangles at the side. We're going to fold those in first. They should be scored, so they should fold quite easily, readily, like so. And then this central piece here that where we've just folded these, we're just going to put a little bit of a curve on. It should really match the curve of these side parts here, because these are going to bend round and come into contact like so. It should make a sort of a solid, almost triangular block, but with that curve at the top there. So the better the curve, the less you'll see of any gaps that may form, bringing it all together. So what we need to do now is just put a little bit of glue on those triangles that we folded down. Like so, and I'm just going to put some onto the sides where they're going to come into contact too, and I'll just let that dry off before we do anything else. So I'll pop that over in storage with our other bits. Now they're prepared. And I'm going to bring back our little windshield stroke cushion. Guess it was to stop pilots opening their heads up on the breech of the gun if they were to come to an abrupt stop or a rapid change in velocity or direction. So we need to add the cushion to that. There we go, Z7. Let's extract Z7. And as you can see, it's exactly the same shape as the D on here. So that literally just sits on top of it, like so. A few little dabs of glue should see it stick there. Like so. And then we can attach this to the breech of the gun. So these little tabs that we've got poking through here, these actually sit top and bottom of the weaponry, like so. And you can step it off the rear of the breech, like so, with a little bit of a gap. But obviously, what we need is to just pop some glue top and bottom, like so. And then pop that part in place. Kind of over baked it on the glue, I think. Let's just remove that for now. Quick wipe. Go. And then pop it back into place. So. We'll just leave it for the glue to dry a little bit and then position it a little more firmly. Sides need a little more glue, in fact. You seem to be pulling away a little bit, so I'm just going to pop a little bit of glue there and then use a small piece of wire just to make sure it spreads around where it's supposed to be. There we go. Then I'm going to use my pliers, which are quite taut, to just hold that together while it glues. So let's pop this together. So we're just going to literally fold these round on themselves, and hopefully that glue takes effect. Just make sure I push the sides together from the inside out. Then we should have a nice little ammunition chute we can install onto the gun before we pop it onto the deck completely. there's a little pointy bit there. What you can do is just bend that down so that it's pointing downwards. Think of it like that. So it's pointing that way. Right, let's see how our main part is doing. Really do seem to have over-baked it on the glue, but that's all right. It comes off, so that's a bonus. So the last part we can do to our little cushioned frame here is we've got some white edges exposed around there. Now there is a little sticker, a tiny little sticker, that we can use to edge the cushion. That's S17, and I've actually given you a couple of these in case you wanted to. You need to make a second run at it. So it's literally a millimetre wide sticker. I don't know if my sticker is even going to come off. There we go. Now it's actually not long enough to go all the way around, but you don't see all the way around anyway. So I'm going to start at the bottom corner here, just a couple of millimeters in on the underside. And then just chase that right around the edge, covering up the white area. Like so. Go, just make sure the sticker's stuck. I might just put a tiny little bit of glue there just to make sure that sticker stays down, because there's not a lot of stick on 1 millimeter of sticker. So there we go. So now that white edge has nicely disappeared. So on the left hand side of this machine gun, we can actually add our little ammo belt. There's that slot in the side there that I showed you earlier, and the blunt end of the belt should just pop into there. Just going to put a little bit of glue, a little tiny dab of glue, just to make sure that it doesn't fly off at any point. Go. And then on the other side, we've got the chute itself. And there are a couple of little slots there that should take the two protruding slots at the top there. Like so. And obviously we'll just put a little bit of glue on that too, to make sure that that doesn't fall off at any point. go. So we'll just let that glue dry off somewhat, and then we will come to pop this into place on our fuselage. So drying time has passed, and you'll notice on the deck, you've probably noticed this before, you've got two slots here, and those two slots are for the two protrusions that sit under the machine gun here, and that's where it should pop onto the deck. Now you've also got two other scores that show where the bottom parts of the machine gun belt, the ammunition belt, should sit. Now they might be a little bit too far back, so what I do is they're just scores at the moment, they don't go all the way through, is just work out where they will actually be needed, which is pretty much right in front of where they are, and just pop a hole through like so, using a knife. So that's where it should all sit, from the little ammo belt, which needs to be popped into place. So this is just a dry fit at the moment. So we'll make sure that everything is sitting where it should. Just get a feel for where everything needs to end up. Okay. All looks good. It's a little bit of adjustment at the front there. A little bit of a squeeze here, so those tabs actually need to be a little bit closer together. So generally that's ready to go in there. So all I'm going to do is put some glue on the two little tabs that go into the deck, and then some on the bottom of the breech itself, and then just a little dab on the end of each of those ammunition parts. Just last bit, getting that belt in to the slot. So there we go. Sure the barrel's straight. Don't think that needs any glue on it. sure everything's sitting up straight. So obviously this is a lot easier to do without the top wing on. So that's why we're doing it right now. Make sure it's all secure in place and not poking up too far. And obviously I want it pointing straight ahead as well. Okay, I think we can probably let that dry and finish this part of the video right here. We will be moving on to doing the interplane struts and doing the preliminary rigging in the next video. I'll see you then. Bye bye.